All right, here's the deal, everybody. My name is Jeff Tabor. I live in Crossville, Tennessee. And I want to fill the whole world in on some history that nobody knows. Nobody knows but me. The Newton gang, the four brothers, in the late 1900s, early 1920s, they robbed more banks, more trains than anybody in history, in American history at least. They robbed 80 banks and trains. One train robbery alone, by today's standard, equals $640 million. One. Now, you can go through and look at history and look this stuff up online. Those four brothers really got real life prison sentences. And one of them was actually on Johnny Carson when he was way up into his 80s. And there's a thing in the paper back when it happened where they gave the money back. And it's a big old pile, man, just piled up like you wouldn't believe. Here's the truth to it all. We, the people, own this country. Not the president, not the CIA, not the NSA, not the FBI, not the sheriff, not the police, not the fire department, not the medics, not the bankers. We, the people, own this country. And when America first got started, the reason it was called America is because America means beautiful. Well, back then when people was coming over here on boats, they was taking care of their self and their loved ones. They wasn't bringing just anybody with them. Not people they don't know, not thieves. Not rapists, not murderers. Their family. Or really close friends. So when they first got over here and they started building houses and colonizing the place, they built really big, fancy houses. They was spread out. It had plantations. And they was all beautiful. And everybody got along with each other and loved each other. But as time went on, they built houses further down the road. The people at one end didn't really know the others at the other end as much. And then things would happen. A family fight, a house burnt down, different stuff. And it grew and grew to where people didn't know each other no more. These four brothers, because they robbed so many banks and trains, they're the ones that caused the Great Depression. But that's something you don't even hear about. In fact, you don't hardly hear as much about these boys as you do like John Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde. They never killed one person. Every single time they robbed a bank or a train, they would leave a note for the government saying, "We're going to do this again. Watch and see." They'd rob a bank or a train. They'd leave a note. "We're going to do this again. Watch and see." Well, finally, after they robbed so many of them, they finally left a note. It told them, "Look here. This is your fault, not our fault. People put money in banks because they don't want to sit around their houses for anybody to rob them or kill them and take it. So they want to put it in a bank, to put it in a safe where it's supposed to be safe, where nobody can get it. The Federal Reserve, where they'll reserve it, be protected by Congress, by the government. We trusted you. You didn't have an army. We're just four farmhands. We took half of the money of America, put them in a recession. You say you're going to try to come and arrest us and kill us? We could use this half of the money and pay over half the people in America, because they're hurting for money right now, to storm the Capitol. And really, you deserve it. You're supposed to be protecting these people, protecting our interest. When we first did this, the first bank robbery we did, we done said we're not going to kill nobody. If we do, we'll definitely have a charge of murder. And if we don't get away with it, then we're definitely going to be going to prison for the rest of our lives for murder. And if we don't kill nobody, and 3 of us get away, but 1 gets caught, but they don't know who we are, because there's also the first ones to start wearing masks like this, where nobody knows who they are. The only reason I'm wearing a pink one is because I didn't want to wear any type of mask where somebody might think it's gang related in some sort or the other. So pink is the only thing I could come up with. And there's a reason for it all. They wore a mask, so nobody knew who they was. They couldn't tell them who they was. They couldn't identify them. So on that last train robbery they did, they left that note telling them, the first bank we went into, we done made an agreement, we're not going to kill nobody. If 3 of us get away and 1 gets caught, they don't know who we are, then maybe we can use some of the money to bond them out or hire a good lawyer. Well, we ain't going to kill nobody. So they went with their guns. They didn't have any bullets in them. That way they could make sure that none of the other brothers isn't going to get scared and go ahead and kill somebody anyways. But they had a deal. No bullets in them. They're the one taking the risk for these to do this. They're the ones in the wrong already. So if one of them get killed, they already know what the agreement is. And they'll never do it again. And plus, once they kill them, they're going to find out who the person is for sure. The first one they went to, the people kind of resisted a little bit. And they got real close to them, arguing. So they hit a couple of them over the head with their, clubbing them with their guns. But when they first went into the bank, they said, we don't want to kill anybody. We just want the money. So they clubbed a couple of them, and they applied and gave them all the money. And they walked out. Next couple banks down the road, they kind of already heard about them. They walk in. We don't want to kill nobody. We just want the money. Nobody wanted to get hurt, so they just gave it to them. When they got all the way down to the last robbery where they left that note, they didn't even carry their guns with them. They was unarmed. And it was on a train. They said, we don't want to kill nobody. We just want the money. They said, okay. So they told them, this is all your fault. After that first bank robbery, second bank robbery, third bank robbery, fourth, fifth, sixth, heck, even the 10th. You guys should have been able to figure out and investigate how we're getting away with this. They're just giving it to us. And then you say, well, nobody really wants to risk their life for a bunch of pile of money that really ain't theirs. Well, no. But we're willing to risk our life to get a bunch of money that really ain't ours. And so if we can do it, and we did it, just 4 of us did it. And towards the end, didn't even have no weapons or nothing. We just walked in and stepped in with the money and he just handed it to us. What if it was somebody from another country that come over here and did the same thing? And now you're talking about how we're in a recession and he wants to give all the money back. Well, what if we've already been spending a bunch of that money and putting it back into the economy? But it just hasn't came back to the Federal Reserve yet because people are too scared to put the money back in the bank because it doesn't have somebody been raw, so they're just hanging on to it. And if we did, how would you even know? Well, after that, because of these boys, that's when they started putting serial numbers on the dollars. So they would be able to figure out where it's going and where it's been. So they told them, here's what we're going to do. We, the people, trusted you. We trusted you, America, with our money. And we wanted to know if you're really going to guard it and protect it. or you're going to let somebody else come in and take it. So we come in and took our own money from that first bank. And you let us get away with it. And we left a note saying we're going to do this again. And we did, and we did, and we did. None of those people really tried to do anything. And we're trying to teach you lessons and show you something. From the very first one, we clubbed them guys. They should have let us get close to them. They should have guarded themselves. Especially when they see people coming up to them or riding up to a train wearing a mask. They already know what they're about to do. And they don't instantly pull their guns out and stuff and tell us, they're going to shoot us and stay back. They all act like they're too scared. They know what to do because of protocol. Well, sometimes protocol is not the right thing to do, no matter what they say about anything in books. When you're in a situation and you're on hand right then and there, and it's you and them, there ain't no chief, there isn't nobody else going to be able to sit there and say, you did the wrong thing, when if you did something that wasn't in protocol, but it worked out just fine and great, and they're going to sit there and say you didn't do what the protocol said, but everything worked out perfect, then whoever's saying that should be fired. Especially if they've done the protocol many times before and it never worked out. So they said, we're going to give you back half of the money. Half of the money. And we're going to see if we can trust you with that before we give it all back to you. And we're going to take this other half and we're going to split it between us and our kin. But we already know it's way more money than we could ever spend in our lifetime, our children's lifetime, or our grandchildren's lifetime. We already know. We're not that greedy. So we're going to take this money and we're going to find people that, whether you think they're honest or liars or drunks or just hicks, people, if they're in a situation where something has to be done, they're going to do what has to be done. No matter if anybody thinks it's right or wrong, it has to be done. And they don't care what nobody thinks. If they laugh at them later on or whatever, they know they did what was right, really, in the end. Nobody resisted them or anything like that. Let's let them get away with the money. Well, when they told them, they said, if you want to have this money back and you want to agree to this deal, then you have to prove it to us. We're going to do this again. You let us rob one more train, and we're keeping it all. The next train they went to right up on, it was plumb covered with armed guards. And every one of them guards are standing there like this right here, telling them to back off. Well, guess what? They gave back half the money. They told them, why didn't you do that the second time we robbed the bank? The second time. It got to the point where we didn't have to even carry guns. We just walk in and say, we don't want to kill nobody, we just want the money. They say, okay. And we don't even have a gun on us. So they load the money up, put it in a sack, and they just walk on out. Simple as that. So really, by rights, the government didn't deserve to have their money back. But the government didn't deserve to fall either. They learned a hard lesson. But they didn't want everybody in the world to know about it, especially America. Because America at that time was pretty pissed off. And if they all knew about that, it would only make things worse. But then the government started realizing, maybe everybody isn't as smart on paper when they're in school filling out their paperwork. Because maybe they can't write down to explain themselves. Or maybe that isn't their expertise. Everybody has their faults. But what if they excel in so many more things, but you can't prove it because in school, everything's based upon your paperwork. That's when they come out with the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. And what the CIA looks for is anybody out there that sticks out with a skill that is just beyond others. Something that they have that other people don't quite have. Like you look at Bruce Lee. That little old guy could fight like no other. It had 1 million people at his funeral. He wasn't just an actor. Because he was so good at this fighting, they wanted to put him in movies. And they actually had to slow down the footage because he was so fast. Beyond anybody. Beyond anybody. He was so impressive. He had an ability other people didn't have. And you look at the Rain Man. In the movie, somebody drops a box of toothpicks. He says there's 197 of them on the floor. And Tom Cruise says, well, no, I thought you could count. The box says 200. And the waitress that dropped them said, there's 3 toothpicks left in the box. But who else could just look real quick at toothpicks on the ground and count that fast? Well, Tom Cruise realized that this man right here has an ability. He took that man down to Vegas. And they bankrupt a casino. And they did it legally because it wasn't illegal. He just used his mind. He wasn't using nobody else, wasn't using those kind of tricks. Nothing illegal. It was completely legal. He just had a mind above others. The Newton boys, when they had all their wealth, they ended up changing their names